What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you a video about the resting, crafting, and cooking systems coming in Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, which is currently in beta. So, first things first, this is a beta. Things are subject to change. So, in some areas, I'm going to be a little skint on details because I feel like they're probably going to change some of it. First things first, we are going to start with the rest system and then get into the rest of it. This being a beta, I don't know if this is a bug or intentional, but right now resting is not consuming rations like at all. So, for instance, the way this worked in Kingmaker was that if you were out in the world map and you were resting, characters would have an option to hunt versus a skill check that would then provide rations for your party versus actually using rations from your inventory. And then when you were in a dungeon in Kingmaker, it would actually just force you to use the rations, which made sense to me. Now, I think this might, again, just be because it is a beta, but right now, nothing in Wrath of the Righteous is consuming rations in any way. It doesn't matter where you rest, how long you rest, anything. It does not consume your rations. I tested this, checked inventory levels. Don't know if that's super intentional, at least on the world map, because, maybe they could argue that you got something else going on. But in the dungeons, it struck me as probably bugged or something. So again, just one of those areas I think there's going to be some sort of change to. Outside of that, let's talk about corruption. So unlike the Stolen Lands, the World Wound is a bad place for a living being to be. It is a place of demonic corruption. Being there will corrupt you. So to that end, every night that you rest outside of a safe place, such as your main town hub or wherever your resting safe place is at the time, you will gain corruption until the next time you rest at a safe place. This comes in 3 levels. This can be mitigated a bit by the divine services, which we'll get into here in just a minute. However, it cannot ever be completely disregarded. So basically, you need to make sure you're not out in the wild too long without coming and resting in a safer place, because these corruption levels are ridiculous. So the first level is just a -2 check to just everything. So, and it only gets worse from there. So I think there might be a little tweaking, because even just the first level of corruption seemed surprisingly punishing, considering there's 3 levels. So again, this is one of those areas I do kind of expect some tweaks to, just to, give you that heads up. The corruption's probably the biggest change to the rest system as a whole. And that brings us to divine services. So you will have the option to assign a character to divine services, which is essentially just a lore religion check against DC. Now, what divine services will do if you pass the check is actually reduce the corruption rate by about 1/3. So you can see at the bottom here, of course, where we would actually gain all that corruption. A successful divine services check cuts that by 1/3. But again, it can never be completely mitigated. And then we have camouflage, which is a returning feature. This just reduces our chance of being attacked while asleep in our camp. And then we have our night watch. A successful night watch will not prevent an attack, as we can see on the side here. A successful night watch will change where the enemy is located during the attack, and moreover, whether or not your characters are awake and ready. So if you're unaware in Pathfinder, characters can't sleep in their armor. Most people wouldn't. So to that end, a successful night watch check will basically explain how prepared your characters were for the attack. And, some of them might have armor, some of them might not. Are the enemies in your camp when you wake up, or are they farther away, thus giving you time to get ready, that kind of thing. Now, that covers the actual rest portion. There are 2 more slots here, of course, but we're going to get into those with the cooking and crafting sections. And I just want to take this moment to say, I love the improvements on the UI from Kingmaker here. The resting was a little confusing in Kingmaker at first. You got the hang of it pretty quickly. I wouldn't say it was a huge problem or anything. But I will say that this rest system conveys the information so much more clearly than Kingmaker's did. So props to Owlcat on honestly just making a better UI for this. But that brings us to cooking. So cooking is weirdly enough part of the alchemy slot. So you don't have to have an alchemy person for this, but you do have to assign someone to the alchemy slot. Now, alchemy is technically part of the crafting portion that we're going to get into next. However, you do not have to have the associated feats, which I'm going to talk about in that section as well, that go along with alchemy either. So you just have to assign someone to this slot and click on the cooking tab, which I feel is a little clunky, and it's honestly my only big complaint about this system. I hope they move that around, or at least make it more clear, because it's just strange to click on alchemy to go get your cooking, which, I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense, but like literally just to make this video, I hadn't messed with the cooking yet because it wasn't like in place or ready to go, so I had to go search for it. It took me a minute to find it under alchemy, I guess is what I'm getting at. Again, you don't need the alchemy feats to cook, you just have to assign someone, which is why alchemy gets 2 slots. And from there, it's actually basically like the rest of the Kingmaker system. However, in addition to the reagents used to make a specific meal, except the hearty meal, which you don't have to have reagents for, except because you are in the World Wound, you do. So in order to cook in Wrath of the Righteous, you will have to purchase purifying solution from a vendor. It's pretty cheap, it's nothing crazy, but essentially the role play of this, because that's basically what it is that, again, the World Wound is a corrupt place. It corrupts everything, and if you don't cleanse your food, it will be dangerous to eat, regardless of what it is. Beyond that, the recipe system is basically the same. You'll find recipes, you click on them to learn them, thus adding them to your list of available recipes, etc., etc. Now, let's talk about the crafting system, which is the brand new thing for the games, obviously. 2 things are required to even start thinking about crafting anything. You can craft potions and you can craft scrolls. However, in order to do that, you need one of the 2 feats associated. You either need the Brew Potions feat or you need the Scribe Scrolls feat. Now, obviously, all your characters don't need to do this, but the one assigned to it does. Moreover, once you have those feats, it's worth noting that the basic feat gets you up to level 3. There is a mythic feat for the alchemy and scribe scrolling that doubles the level of stuff you can craft. Again, this is one of the areas that I think is going to wind up being tweaked, because if you're going to do this and you're going to pick the mythic feat or whatever, then you wouldn't even want to bother getting the lower feat from your regular feats, because the mythic feat, you don't have to have the earlier ones to pick it, at least not currently. So again, just one of those things I think they need to work out a little more, but it's a beta, so it is what it is. So once you have those feats, again, you actually need one more thing. Instead of a purifying solution, you need an alchemy kit or a scroll scriber's kit. You buy them from merchants. They're not very expensive or anything, but you do need to buy them to craft your scrolls and potions and everything. And in addition to those, you need the appropriate reagents to go along with whatever it is you're trying to make. So pretty straightforward system. You guys can see the difficulty checks of some of this stuff. It'll show you the chance of success and everything. It'll even show you what kind of check it is. So again, the UI is actually probably the big winner here of this entire system, in my opinion, but that's pretty much going to do it, guys. That is a look at the resting, crafting, cooking of Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. If you guys are interested in supporting the channel and helping me create more content, there will be a link to a merch store down below, which I think is awesome because you guys get some physical merchandise, plus it is easily the most direct way to help the channel out. But with that out of the way, truly thank you guys for watching. Obviously couldn't do this without you, so genuinely, just thank you guys. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.